Welcome everyone to today's session. Today we are going to be covering specifically the PiXL Waves powered by Pupil Progress. What we're going to do is just cover a little bit about what is the Waves and how it's changed from the old historic system, which was the Wave, and a little bit how you can maximize this system and the tracking tool that is Pupil Progress to support you as either a teacher or a head of department. Now, the session is going to be roughly around 30 minutes so that you are aware of how long we're going to be talking about it. There's going to be a recording as well. And if you are really interested in getting involved with the Waves and you don't know how, you can just simply email onboarding@pupilprogress.com. That's onboarding@pupilprogress.com. I can see a little ticker tape down the bottom there that's showing you how you can get involved if you don't know really where to go. So let's get cracking. I'm going to share screen now and we'll be able to take you through a little bit of a reminder. So some of you that have been to the conferences might have seen some information about it. We can go through this in more detail today. But essentially, what is the Waves, how it works for you? Historically, you would have sat a single paper. You'd have sat and chosen a particular paper that PiXL have named to say, we are sitting, for example, the June 2023, and we need to sit that paper within this window, submit the data within this window, and therefore we can all do the national comparison for the June 2023 paper. Over time, that became particularly onerous for both PiXL and yourselves as English teachers and English leads, and therefore wasn't as useful because less schools were getting engaged with the process of effectively taking that data, putting it in QLA, and then uploading it into PiXL's platform. What we have done is created exam board specific trackers that calculate the grade exactly as the exam board does. This allows you to enter the QLA data for any assessment into the Pupil Progress trackers directly. Not only will that calculate a grade, but most importantly, it will allow you to see how they're performing at a question level per paper, and also then per question linked to each specific AO. And this is the point where I want to make sure that people understand how the Waves works, because what we are analyzing at a national level is the AOs. And this is the key, because we're now analyzing the AOs with the Waves. If you've entered data directly into Pupil Progress, the data pulls through into these summary sections. The AOs means that you can sit any paper at any point in time. So the Waves has moved on to really support not only the national comparison around the key areas, which is AO1 through to AO6, but the key is that you aren't bound by any particular paper or any particular window for that particular paper. This has increased the engagement and it has increased the number of people that are getting involved with the Waves itself. But what it also means is we can create an environment where you can compare the data in real time on the platform. So you can see an example here is you can access the comparison by clicking on the tools. I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment on the platform to have a live picture of how you compare to the latest reflection point from the Waves itself. A key element to this is we know that you are either a head of department or a teacher, and you need a tracking system that's going to work for you on a day-to-day basis. So we've added some tools and functionality in there to ensure that you can still do your day-to-day tracking and monitoring and your lesson planning without having to be on multiple systems. So the system has been designed to support you actually coming off your Excel or Google sheet. Not only have you got an overarching summary of how students are performing across your whole entire cohort, you've also got the ability to see how they're performing at any subgroup level, as well as any subgroup data that you want to particularly focus on. Examples here, any SEN students, any pupil premium students. So not only are you getting that comparison nationally of how they're underperforming, you're also getting a understanding of how they're performing with regard to their minimum targets and the school's expectations. As a head of department, what I can also do is analyze the performance across a whole cohort. So you can see here that I've opened up the tracker for a particular assessment, and now I'm filtering out for every single student that is one grade away. So I can use the platform not just as a way to understand how we compare nationally. I can now start to understand which areas we're underperforming in, but we can also then understand which groups of students we need to work with quite closely. So the tool is going to allow you to identify, an example here is every student that's one grade away, but also not only that, the key areas within that paper that we want to start putting in the right order to understand which groups we need to work with. You can see here that we have a really clever tagging tool, and that tagging tool allows you to literally do exactly what it says on the tin, which is tag those students that are underperforming for a particular area, i.e. we can see here that students that are underperforming with AO5, and therefore we want to do a very targeted intervention session with those students. We can grip hold of those and create a filtered view that only shows the students that I would like to work with because they're underperforming for AO5. What this does is not only allows me to identify those clear group of students as a result of entering the data directly into Pupil Progress, it also ensures that I can get the students engaged with the data. Now, I'm going to use some PiXL language here because it's particularly powerful and was something that's been used quite heavily for a number of years, which is the PLCs. This is the individual student report, which is synonymous with the personalized learning checklists. You can see that it produces a report for each individual student. And this is the key. Not only are you getting that national comparison, not only are you seeing the areas that students are underperforming in across the breadth of those engaging with the PiXL Waves, you've not only got those tools to identify which groups of students we need to work with, you've also got the ability to empower those students with a report that shows me exactly how many marks students are away from their minimum target. But most importantly, is going to identify for them the key areas they need to go and work on in order to see that uplift. This increases student motivation. And the way it increases student motivation is it provides ownership. It's in their hands. It's in their students' phones that can be pushed out as a report to any one of the students that you've got the data in the platform for. What I can also do is print this out, put it in their folders, bring them to parent consultation evenings, either through my mobile device, might be an iPad, might be a Surface Pro, or it could be a simply printed document. This ownership in combination with the buy-in, and the buy-in comes from the fact that students really see that the teacher knows exactly what they need to work on and why, creates an increase in motivation. So this is not just an opportunity to engage with the waves in a national comparison. It is a complete support network from Pupil Progress and PiXL to ensure that you're able to do everything you possibly can to raise attainment for your students. I want to remind you before I do dive into the platform to show you a little bit of functionality that this is available for all courses for English literature and language. It's available for all exam boards, including the Welsh and Irish exam boards. This is for both Key Stage 4 and for Key Stage 5, as well as performance linked resources, which I'll touch on in a moment too. So we can allocate resources from PiXL that are going to be pushed out to students via the application. And this is the important part, because you're using the trackers. What PiXL are able to see and analyze is the underperforming areas, and then write resources in line with your areas of weakness. So not only have we identified where the problem is, PiXL are going to be instrumental in being able to support teachers with the solution, which is the resources that English teachers and English leads need in order to raise the attainment as a result of improving performance in AO4, AO3, AO5, whatever has actually come out of the report as a indicator for underperformance. You also do get a lot of support using the system. So some of you looking at this thinking, oh, it might look quite technical. If you've got an account set up, we have a dedicated PiXL Waves lead. Zana is in the background right now. She is the person who looks after this whole relationship and is really, really fast to respond to any support requests and gets people onboarded and gives you that wraparound that you need. We know as former teachers just how busy your day is. We'll upload any historic data for you. So if you really want to get going with this and you've got some historic data, and I'll be quite clear, if you are thinking, well, I'd really like to get going, but I've just set a mark and the data is in that, and I really want to use this now as a new tracking system, but it's a bit late now, we will support you with that. So if you've got some data into your existing spreadsheet in April, and you really want to use this as a tracking system moving forward because this comes at zero cost, we can upload that data for you. So we don't upload the data just for the waves, but we will upload your historic data to help you move and transition to use this as an ongoing tracking system. We give you 24-hour support. You can see the chat function to the right there. That will allow you to schedule a call at any point with anyone in the team. And as a PWA, which is an internal internal code, which is the PiXL Waves user, that will go also straight through to Zana, and Zana will be able to take you through any support questions that she has. I want to remind you all that if you were set up last year and we've got your account details, you're going to be set up ready to go this year, and therefore you don't have to do anything other than just reach out to that onboarding at pupilprogress.com and we'll be able to get you all set up. Okay, I'm going to shift over to some of the functionality in the tracker. Now, we know that if you are going to engage with something, you want to understand that it's fit for purpose. If you've got an account with us, again, I want to stress this, it's at zero cost. If you're a PiXL member, you're able to access this at no additional cost. It's already inclusive of your PiXL Waves, your PiXL membership. So if you're a PiXL member as a school, for English and maths, this costs no more and doesn't need sign off from your departmental budget. If you have an account, you'll come into an area like this. All of your classes will be synced with your school's MIS. And then you'll be able to see that if I click on live tracking, it takes me into my live tracker. And as you saw from the presentation, this is broken down into paper 1 and 2, and each one of the questions from paper 1 and 2 are linked into that topic summary. And as mentioned, it's that topic summary that you can see here that we analyze at a national level. If I go to tools on the left-hand side, you can see that I've got access to any reflection points. We've got one coming up soon that will be published on the Pupil Progress platform. I simply select which reflection point I'd like to review, and then it will do that reflection for me. I believe we've got a development coming soon that's also going to traffic like that against the current performance for you. So you're going to be able to see if it's higher or lower at a glance. You can see quite clearly here which ones are higher and lower in comparison. However, we're going to make it even more visually easy for you. The key here is it's all in one place. I get to engage with the waves. I get the resources that PiXL are creating for me. If I click on tools, you'll be able to see that there's a direct link to those resources because we want to make your life as easy as possible so that you understand actually which resources are available as a result of the analysis nationally. The second is I've got the tools within this tracking system to help me with my day-to-day tracking. Let's go to tools. Let's actually take this off the tracker. Let's put none. So let's keep it a nice focused view. And let's actually look at a typical example. So I might want to look at reassessing only section B of paper 1 or of paper 2. So I might look at across paper 1 and 2 and say, right, well, I would like to reassess definitely AO5 for paper 2. What I can do quite quickly and easily is I can just click on add an assessment, and you'll be able to see that I can add any type of assessment on this particular system. A published assessment will add one that replicates exactly the structure of the paper that you've just seen on the screen. A custom is I can just add a single question or a single set of questions. This one is actually my favorite, which is the ability to copy and modify an assessment. And when I actually click on that, you'll be able to see exactly how it works. I would like to add an assessment to paper 2. I'm going to click copy selected. I'm going to add that to paper 2 and name it section B. And I'm going to call it P2, just quite simply paper 2. I can select whether I would like this to count towards the working out grade or not. What you can also see here is it's replicated the structure for me. It effectively built it for me. You can see the AOs, the headings. Now, I want this to be a section B paper. So quite simply, all I need to do is remove the first 4 questions, apologies. And then you'll see that I can select which trackers I'd like that to appear on. And when I click that I'd like that to appear on all trackers, or if I want to, I can just have it appear on one. I can click save, create assessment. Now, the key here is, again, historically, which was no one's fault, it was just the only tools that we could use at any point was Excel or Google Sheets. What we were able to do, you were only able to set up systems that meant you have to use 2 systems. I had to put data into a separate spreadsheet for PiXL to engage with the PiXL Wave, and I had to use a separate spreadsheet, but now we've put it all into one place. So if I open up that tracker, you can see that we're able to add an assessment. I'm actually just going to open this English NE1 here and then open paper 2. You can see that that has added that assessment for me. So here we had the first assessment, paper 1. I wanted to ensure that I'm going to reassess section A of paper 2. And when I add data into that, let's add some data in there live on the webinar, you'll be able to see that it's going to start to calculate a scaled score for me and calculate an average grade, which allows me to really understand, have I seen an improvement in performance? So if I close that down, you can see I've seen an uplift from section B of paper 2. And on top of that, it creates an average grade for me and allows me to see the impact on my grade performance. So what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that you can continually use the platform to meet your needs with regard ongoing tracking and monitoring, as well as being able to continually report to students how they're performing ongoing also. If I wanted to, I can just only show one assessment on at a time. It doesn't have to be this accumulative process. So for example, if I click on edit assessments here, I can click on quick edit. You can see that I've got this particular assessment I'd want across all 3 classes. I'm going to remove the full paper because I just want to add data in for a mini assessment or a slightly smaller assessment. I'm going to click save changes, and that's going to have updated the tracker. So what I want to really clearly communicate to you is you don't have to spend, a lot of time scrolling through across multiple assessments because there's no way of removing those. You can quite clearly see now I've just added a simple assessment that's just showing me how they've performed across AO 5 and 6 for paper 2. And this allows you to see that I can also start tracking my year 10. So I might have only sat section A of paper 1, and I might have only sat section B of paper 2 in year 10. I can do exactly the same for this first paper. I can add just section A, and then I can also just add section B, and then it's going to start to give me a guide grade for my performance too. If I click quick edit, I'm going to actually pull those assessments back because I'm going to show a head of department exactly how we can start to use the data across all of the year group, not just individual teachers or just individual assessments. Just bring that assessment back. Let's take that one off. Again, hopefully you've been able to see just how easy the system is to use. Adjusting these as well, and I think it's an important note here, making these adjustments also decides what is going to be published on the report. So if you do only wish to show certain assessments on the individual report, that is where you would be able to manage that in that quick edits, and you'd be able to see exactly which assessments I'd like to show on that tracker and which assessments I'd like to keep off the tracker. Deleting is an option, but you can have assessments that don't show that are saved in the background. So what I'd actually like to show you is within the tracker, if I click here and I drop down, I can open the whole year group overview. Now, I did allude to how you can use the data set to your, the maximum advantage. What you're seeing here is that I've got a full data set for my whole entire year group. And I've got some really useful tools that are going to help you understand which students we need to work with. So I'll give you some scenarios, and some of those scenarios are quite common and quite typical, which is, well, I need to understand which groups of students need to work with in the run into the exam to maximize not only their potential, but also who am I going to, need to teach in those intervention sessions, or how am I going to get maximum impact in my lessons, given that every student's going to have multiple needs. If I use the sort functionality, I can actually sort students in order of lowest to highest performance quite quickly. So I can actually see visually where my students sit with regard to their current performance against minimum target. I can also do that across any one of the columns in the tracker too. So I can put in lowest to highest order of performance for particular groups of students that are underperforming in certain areas, and start to see how long the list is of students that are actually underperforming in certain areas of the paper. This example is content and organization. Now, probably the most effective way, and some suggestions here, is to actually look at which groups of students are underperforming or one grade away. If we actually go to the left, you can see there's a filter function. If you click on, I would like to make a comparison to the minimum target grade. So if I click on comparison to minimum target, I can start to make a comparison between average grade and every student that is one grade away. Now, what that does is allows me to identify exactly how many students are one grade away. It's also going to identify for me how many students are less than 10 marks away, higher than 10 marks away from achieving that minimum target. And it's going to allow me to then really utilize that tool. Now, let's open paper 1, because I know I've got a full data set for paper 1. You can see the data is all nicely organized for every student that is one grade away. I can then put them in order of lowest to highest performance, or highest to lowest performance, for those particular questions. So what I'm beginning to see here, when I look at the average row across the top, that there are students that are, as a whole group, are getting less than half marks in quite a high impact question, which you English leads will know is the 24-mark question from AO5 across both papers. I can even do, if I wish, a little bit of a cross reference with the other paper to see which students are also underperforming in that area too. But most importantly, what I can see is I've got a significant group of students here that are getting less than half marks, and I'd want to do some work with those. Okay, well, I filtered those out. How do I really grip hold of those? Not only can I filter, but what I can also do is create a tag. So if I click on enable tagging, you'll be able to see here that this is pulled up 2 tags that I've added recently, but I'm going to actually take those off and show you how we can start again. So if I click configure, you can see that I've got students that are 2 grades away from minimum target filtered, but I've got here content and organization, paper 1 and 2, 12 marks or less. I'm going to save and close, and that's now added the tag for me. And this is showing me for paper 1, these are the students that are getting 12 marks or less. And these students here, you can see, are students that are underperforming by 1 grade. Very simply, all I would do is I would add here a tag to each one of those students. I can also do that at a top level. So if I click on this particular row here, yes, I would like to select all students. That now selects all students within that group. And what you'll be able to see is I can then deselect the ones that are above. So it's a bit of a time saver because there's more of the ones that are below and there's less of the ones that are above. And now I've got that group of students. So not only can I see which students are underperforming, I can very closely grip hold of them. If I then go to filter and I click on tags, I can then filter by exactly what I've just created, add filter. And what you can see is it creates that really, really focused group of students. All the students that are 1 grade away that need to get anywhere between 2 and 15 marks in their AO5. And what I can see is not only, if I wanted to, go to tools, add the comparison to December 24, I can also see that group of students is also in line with my national comparison. So they also saw from that national comparison in December 2024 that students have been struggling with AO5, and therefore this is in line, and my intervention is in line with, actually going to take that one off because I'm actually going to do less than half marks. And what you're going to see is that keeps that list really super focused. Now, what I like about this, and I don't know if anyone else is a list kind of person or is particularly organized with their to-dos. What these filters allow us to do now we've created these tags is give us a very, very simple goal. And the simple goal is reducing the amount of people that are on this list, and I can create multiple lists. So if I click on filters, you'll be able to see that if I click on tags, I've created some previous intervention groups. You might have content and organization paper 2, 12 marks or less. You might have AO4 paper 1. You might have AO4 paper 2. Now, some students might also have a crossover for that. So some students may also be required for more than one area that they want to that they're underperforming in. I can add multiple tags to this particular subset of data. So for example, if I wanted to, I could create a tag that allowed me to actually identify a group of students that were underperforming in a particular area. When I go to filters, I am able to then simply identify those groups of students that are 1 grade away, that are all underperforming in AO5. And it allows me to pull up that focus list very, very quickly. Now, you can see here that I've got some students that have started to improve their performance with that filter. they've now got themselves into a position where they're not in that same list. And my point here is the moment I start deselecting them, they take themselves off the list because they've now seen an improvement in their performance. My goal as a teacher and as a head of department is to simply make every one of those intervention lists as small as possible. And the satisfying nature of being able to see an improvement in performance and then deselecting those students is wonderful, because we might start the intervention process with 12 on the list and it might drop us down all the way to students that are getting, four improving their assessment outcomes, so that over time I'm slowly making that list smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's a really interesting process, because it's almost like a to-do list all smashed together with your intervention plan, which makes it super satisfying, but also really easy to see the groups of students that we're really trying to work with and support. As I've mentioned previously, if I go to the tools, I can also access that subject analysis. So we really have created some fantastic tools that enable you to save on workload and time. I don't know how deeply you are engaged with some of the whole school analytics tools. We know that they're very powerful at a whole school level, but we've gone for a much more simple approach, which is just giving you that key information. What percentage of students are underperforming? Which percentage of students are performing on target? Again, a really useful filtered list is how many students are close to dropping back down a grade versus just the students that are underperforming. And then I've also got all subgroup analysis literally at my fingertips. I don't have to go and filter anything. I don't have to go and try and work out how to get certain groups of data for certain students. And I suppose my last point, going back to the tracker itself, I can do all of the department processes that I would need to maybe do with my line manager. So here's my full data set. I might need to filter for all of the students who are, let's just say, for example, pupil premium, and are also add filter. Let's also add that they are my male pupil premium, for example. So yes, these are my male pupil premium students, and it allows me to then be able to have that discussion with anyone. I'll be able to save that as a tag as well if I wanted to, and I'll be able to actually pull up those students who are key groups or focus students across the school. And let's actually show you now. Let's take this tag off, but I'm also going to show you here that at a whole school level, you can see who does have English and not maths. You can also see at a whole school level that now feeds into the tracker itself which ones have maths and not English, and you can then see and filter out the students that have been tagged at a whole school level. So it is really slick communication between all departments across your teams, and most importantly across your school. I'm going to just revert back to this PowerPoint presentation just as a little reminder. If you are already set up or you have given your email address historically, we will support you in getting up and running. You're already ready to go anyway. And I think if I can get Zana just to put up that ticker tape again, if you are seeing this for the first time and aren't aware, it is all effectively, it's at zero cost. Your school is already paying the PiXL membership. This is all inclusive of your PiXL membership. And what I'm actually going to do is that's fine. We're just going to stop sharing screen now. It's all inclusive of your PiXL membership. There is no additional cost, and it's available for all qualifications across Key Stage 4 and 5. And that means every teacher in your whole entire department can use the tracking system. And you do get access to all of the resources that PiXL have written. So you get a complete wraparound as a result of this analysis of the data. So it's an absolute no-brainer. Any questions, email onboarding@pupilprogress.com, and a member of our dedicated PiXL Waves team will reach out and get you onboarded and supported in the way that you would do any other person using Pupil Progress's platform. Really appreciate your time and looking forward to speaking to you soon.